quiet week on the calendar turned into one of the darkest in global crime. In Wales, a teenager's life was cut short in a case that left an entire nation asking how something so violent could happen so suddenly. In New Zealand, flames tore through a community in the dead of night, turning homes into crime scenes and raising fears of a deliberate attack. And across the world, from city streets to small towns, criminal acts unfolded that may have happened thousands of miles apart, yet followed the same disturbing pattern of warning signs ignored and lives changed forever. These are not just breaking news stories. They are moments that shattered families, exposed dangerous failures, and left questions that authorities are still struggling to answer. Tonight, we take you inside the most shocking international crime cases reported this week, uncovering what is known, what remains hidden, and why these crimes matter far beyond the borders where they occurred. Welcome to Crimes of the Week International, where we bring you verified world crime stories with context, clarity, and respect for the victims. This episode covers the week of November 14th, 2025, a period marked by violence, fear, and urgent investigations unfolding across multiple countries. We begin with the heartbreaking killing of a Welsh teenager, a case that has sparked outrage, grief, and an intense police response. From there, we move to New Zealand, where a suspicious arson attack has left the community shaken and authorities searching for answers. We will also examine other major crime stories from around the world, connecting the facts, timelines, and developments that reveal how quickly ordinary days can turn into international headlines. As you watch, remember that these stories are not just about crime. They are about people, accountability, and the warning signs that too often come too late. Stay with us until the end, because some details in these cases change everything. A quiet week on the calendar turned into one of the darkest in global crime. In Wales, a teenager's life was cut short in circumstances so sudden and violent that the shock rippled far beyond the local community. In New Zealand, flames tore through a neighborhood while families slept, leaving behind charred remains, unanswered questions, and the fear that the fire was no accident. Across the rest of the world, crimes unfolded that may have seemed isolated at first, yet together revealed a troubling pattern of warning signs ignored, tensions escalating, and lives forever altered. These are not just news updates or headlines scrolling past on a screen. They are stories of real people, real fear, and real consequences. Tonight, we take a deeper look at the most disturbing international crime cases from the week of November 14th, 2025, examining what happened, how authorities responded, and why these events demand global attention. Welcome to Crimes of the Week International, a place where global crime stories are explored with clarity, responsibility, and respect for the victims. This week's cases span continents and cultures, yet share a common thread of tragedy and unanswered questions. We begin in Wales, where a teenager's life ended far too soon, sparking grief, anger, and a nationwide conversation about safety and accountability. From there, we travel to New Zealand, where a suspicious arson attack has left investigators searching for motives while residents struggle to feel safe again. Along the way, we will also examine other major crime stories reported around the world during this same week, each one shedding light on broader issues facing societies today. As we move through these cases, it is important to remember that behind every statistic and police statement is a human life that mattered. Stay with us, because the details of these stories reveal more than just crime. They reveal how quickly ordinary moments can turn into irreversible loss. The story in Wales begins with a teenager described by friends and family as full of life, known in their community, and still at the very beginning of their future. On an ordinary day, plans were made, messages were exchanged, and nothing seemed out of place. By the end of that day, everything had changed. Emergency services were called following reports of a serious incident, and what they found would soon become the center of a major criminal investigation. News of the teenager's death spread rapidly, first through whispers in the community, then through official police statements, and finally across national media. As details emerged, shock turned into grief, and grief into outrage, as people demanded to know how such violence could occur and whether it could have been prevented. Investigators moved quickly, securing the scene and appealing to the public for information. Forensic teams worked through the night, piecing together evidence that could explain what happened in the final moments of the teenager's life. Police emphasized that they were following multiple lines of inquiry, careful not to release information that could compromise the investigation. Meanwhile, classmates gathered outside schools, leaving flowers, notes, and candles in makeshift memorials. Social media filled with tributes, photographs, and messages of disbelief. Parents across Wales held their children a little closer, shaken by the realization that something so horrific could happen so close to home. As the investigation progressed, authorities confirmed that the death was being treated as a homicide. This confirmation intensified public reaction, transforming sadness into fear and anger. Questions began to circulate about the circumstances leading up to the crime. Was the teenager known to the suspect or suspects? Were there warning signs that went unnoticed? Had there been previous reports of threats or violence? While police remained cautious, urging the public not to speculate, the demand for answers grew louder with each passing day. Community leaders called for calm, emphasizing the importance of allowing investigators to do their work, while also acknowledging the deep emotional toll on residents. Arrests followed, marking a critical turning point in the case. Police announced that individuals had been taken into custody for questioning, though details about charges and motives were limited at this stage. The news brought a measure of relief to some, but for many, it only deepened the sense of tragedy. The loss of a young life cannot be undone, and the legal process ahead promised to be long and painful for all involved. Vigils continued across Wales, not only to honor the victim but also to send a message that violence against young people would not be ignored or normalized. While Wales mourned, another crisis was unfolding thousands of miles away in New Zealand. In the early hours of the morning, emergency calls reported a large fire spreading rapidly through a residential area. Fire crews arrived to find flames engulfing structures, smoke filling the air, and residents fleeing their homes in fear. What initially appeared to be a tragic accident soon took on a more sinister tone as investigators began examining the scene. Evidence suggested that the fire may have been deliberately set, raising the possibility of arson and triggering a major criminal investigation. For the affected community, the aftermath was devastating. Homes were destroyed, possessions reduced to ashes, and the sense of safety that once defined the neighborhood was shattered. Families were displaced, forced to rely on temporary shelters and the support of neighbors and local organizations. As daylight revealed the full extent of the damage, questions began to surface. Why this location? Why this time? And who would deliberately endanger lives in such a reckless manner? Police and fire investigators worked together, carefully analyzing burn patterns, accelerants, and witness statements in an effort to uncover the truth. Authorities in New Zealand addressed the public with a mix of urgency and reassurance. They confirmed that the fire was being treated as suspicious and urged anyone with information to come forward. Surveillance footage from nearby properties was collected, and residents were interviewed in detail. The investigation highlighted the complexity of arson cases, where physical evidence can be destroyed by the very act being examined. Despite these challenges, officials remained confident that progress was being made. Meanwhile, community leaders organized support networks, emphasizing solidarity and resilience in the face of fear. As days passed, the emotional impact of the arson became increasingly clear. Children struggled to understand why their homes were gone. Adults grappled with anger, fear, and uncertainty about the future. The possibility that the fire was intentional cast a long shadow, leaving residents uneasy and alert. This case, like the one in Wales, underscored how crime can fracture a sense of normalcy in an instant. leaving lasting scars that extend far beyond physical damage. Beyond Wales and New Zealand, the week of November 14, 2025, saw other serious crimes reported around the world. In several countries, violent incidents raised concerns about public safety, while in others, complex investigations exposed deeper systemic issues. These cases varied in scale and detail, yet each contributed to a broader picture of a world grappling with violence, instability, and the ongoing challenge of justice. Some involved organized crime networks operating across borders, while others stemmed from personal disputes that escalated with tragic consequences. In parts of Europe, authorities responded to violent assaults that left communities demanding stronger protections and quicker intervention. In Asia, financial crimes and corruption cases dominated headlines, revealing how economic pressures and power imbalances can fuel criminal behavior. In the Americas, shootings and unresolved disappearances reminded the public of persistent issues surrounding gun violence and law enforcement accountability. Each story added another layer to the global crime landscape of the week, reinforcing the idea that no region is immune and that solutions require both local action and international cooperation. What connects all these cases is not just the fact that they occurred within the same week, but the way they reveal patterns of vulnerability. Whether it is a teenager at risk, a community exposed to deliberate destruction, or systems strained by corruption and violence, the warning signs are often present long before tragedy strikes. Yet again and again, these signs are overlooked, minimized, or dismissed until it is too late. This realization is one of the most unsettling aspects of reviewing crimes of the week, because it forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about prevention, responsibility, and collective awareness. As investigations continue, families wait for answers that may take months or even years to fully emerge. Court proceedings, forensic analysis, and official inquiries move at a pace that often feels painfully slow to those directly affected. In the meantime, the public's attention shifts to the next headline, the next breaking story. But for the victims and their loved ones, time stands still, marked only by absence and unanswered questions. This is why revisiting these cases matters, even after the initial shock fades. The role of crime reporting is not just to inform, but to remember, to ensure that victims are not reduced to statistics and that their stories are not forgotten once the news cycle moves on. By examining these cases together, we gain a clearer understanding of the challenges facing societies worldwide and the urgent need for meaningful change. Awareness alone cannot undo harm, but it can create pressure for accountability, reform, and prevention. As this week comes to a close, the stories from Wales, New Zealand, and beyond remain unfinished. Arrests have been made, investigations are ongoing, and many questions remain unanswered. What is certain, however, is that lives have been irrevocably changed. Families will grieve, communities will rebuild, and justice will be sought through systems that are often imperfect but necessary. The hope is that by shedding light on these crimes, we honor the victims and contribute, in some small way, to a safer and more accountable world. In just 7 days, we have seen how fragile normal life can be and how quickly it can be disrupted by violence and criminal acts.